Hello Pixies, welcome back to my channel. It is LadyTheLaddy here with a new Warframe video, this time for the 46th Warframe, Sevagoth. Today's video will be a comprehensive look at Sevagoth in a late game setting, taking a peek at the base kit of Sevagoth, what I've changed, the amount of forma, how you build him, how you farm him, and of course, some gameplay. As always, if you like the video, be sure to drop a like on the channel, subscribe, and check me out on Twitch where I stream pretty much every day of the week over at LadyTheLaddy on Twitch. And without further ado, let's get started with the video. Sevagoth is farmed from the Call of the Tempestarii quest. This is where you will acquire his blueprint. Farming his neuroptics, chassis, and systems is done through the Corpus Proxima, specifically the new Voidstorm game mode. The locations you'll need to go to will be either Neptune, Pluto, or Vale Proxima Voidstorms. These game modes act like normal Fisher missions, except for the fact that the tin reactant is shared across the party, and have added void sinks that will explode, dealing damage if detonated. These scale over time and with the level of the mission. Personally, I farmed all of my Sevagoth parts from the Neptune Proxima Voidstorm. These Voidstorms are typically on the Corpus Proxima either volatiles or exterminates, both of which are easy and very conducive to collecting reactant. Voidstorms are across all Proximas though. Different rewards can be farmed from different Voidstorms. Life and death, unending. Sevagoth's passive Tombstone allows you to revive yourself by manifesting your shadow upon death. By consuming 5 souls of the enemies, you can revive yourself and continue gameplay without the cost of a revive. Note that Sevagoth's shadow can be destroyed in this state, and in doing so will lead you to a true death and cost you one of your revives. The second part of Sevagoth's passive is Deathwell. This is the feature that allows you to summon your shadow at will. Upon reaching level 10, your abilities, Reap, Sow, and Gloom, all will affect your Deathwell. Filling up this meter allows you to use Shadow for a predetermined amount of time based on the amount of Deathwell acquired. Shadow can only be activated when the Deathwell is at 75% or higher. Shadow of course can be used until the Deathwell is fully depleted. Sevagoth's first ability is Reap. Summon Shadow and fling him at your enemies. Doing so will afflict your enemies with damage vulnerability and radiation damage. This ability can be controlled by using aim down sights. On keyboard and mouse, the default key for this is right mouse button. You can either point and click in a direction to force Shadow to move there, or you can press and hold and control the entirety of Shadow for the duration of the ability. This ability scales off ability strength, duration, and range. Enemies that die with this affliction will send their souls to the Deathwell, filling it over time. Sevagoth's second ability is Sow. Plant a death seed in enemies, dealing damage over time for a set duration, in a specific range. Detonate and reap what was sown by using Sevagoth's first ability, Reap, on enemies, creating an explosion that deals a percentage of their HP as radial damage. Furthermore, this ability is most effective when used in conjunction with Reap and when those sown and reaped are in close proximity. This ability scales off of ability strength, duration, and range. Sevagoth's third ability is Gloom. Summon a radial pulse wave that ensnares and slows enemies, siphoning their life force for the Deathwell. Allies within the wave steal health with each attack. This ability is channeled, scales off ability strength for the slow and for lifesteal. Range increases the overall range that this ability can stretch to. This ability expands over time, reaching a maximum range predetermined by the ability range set. This ability, in conjunction with the use of Shadow, is Sevagoth's main survivability tool. Note That gloom will stack with other slowing effects, such as cold. Combine gloom with the Epitaph to create extreme slow fields. Sevagoth's fourth ability is Exalted Shadow. When the death well fills to above 75%, Sevagoth's shadow form is ready to be released. Tear through the enemies with a collection of melee-focused abilities. Shadow's first ability is Embrace. Ghostly hands pull enemies towards Sevagoth's shadow. This has an angle, range, and duration, and is a secondary CC tool for Sevagoth. Consume is Shadow's second ability. This ability is both a mobility tool and a survivability tactic. Replenish your HP as Shadow by consuming the souls of enemies. This is the ability used in Sevagoth's passive, Tombstone. Shadow's third ability is Death's Harvest. Inflict nearby enemies with a harrowing condition. This creates a damage vulnerability debuff in an area of effect. This persists for a set amount of time. Reunite. Sevagoth and his shadow become one. This will automatically recast upon the shadow's death, the emptying of the death well, or upon manual interaction with the fourth key. For each percent of the death well drained, Sevagoth's health is healed by 1% of his maximum health pool. Like a twisted vampire, Sevagoth feeds off the health of his enemies, draining them, debuffing them, and aging them beyond their wildest comprehension. Control the battlefield, and control life itself with Sevagoth and Shadow. The build showcased in this video replaces Sevagoth's third ability with Breach Surge. While by far not the only Helminth option, this is the ability and build that I choose to showcase for its high burst potential and its strong CC. Breach Surge has an initial blind that creates even more CC. This, in conjunction with its multiplicative damage, scales very well with the combo of Sow and Reap. Scaling ability strength makes this entire combination even more potent, even on the likes of the Steel Path, where everything is being showcased. These stat variables can be tweaked to your preferences, within a certain extent. I wouldn't recommend going below 293% ability strength though, if you wish to have the most potent build. Obviously though, the higher ability strength, the better. Duration isn't the most important stat because of the burst nature of this build. This build works utilizing the CC of Breach Surge and Embrace to set up kills. This is followed by quickly setting up Sow into Reap, creating massive amounts of explosive damage in a set radius of enemies, then expanding outward utilizing the likes of Breach Surge. Breach Surge then inflicts further CC by creating mass radiation procs in areas further away than Sevagoth would naturally generally be able to reach. This creates a much safer environment for Sevagoth to live in and fight in. Utilizing Shadow as well, switching in opportune moments rejects the need for the likes of mods like Adaptation or Rolling Guard, though if you do like them, by all means keep them in your build. But if you prefer, you may switch it with something else. A second Umbral mod or another polarity that fits in that slot. It's up to you. I use Growing Power simply because it grows my power. However, alternate mods of course include Steel Charge for more mod capacity, Brief Respite for a little bit more safety, and the likes of Enemy Radar. Efficiency, while low, isn't nearly as big of an issue as you might expect. Utilizing Shadow and the Preparation mod gives you a safe alternative if you find yourself running low on energy. Plus Primed Flow and Arcane Energize both keep Sevagoth relatively well topped off on energy. However, of course, if you find yourself at a deficit, you can use the likes of Znurk or Energy Pads. Shadow is built primarily for range and survivability. Range for more potent Embrace Claws for setup purposes, and for the harrowing Death Harvest field. Survivability, of course, for the passive, and for generally being able to survive while Sevagoth is in trouble, or if I just feel like being a Shadow Reaper. Sevagoth will primarily survive with this build by utilizing both Shadow and Sevagoth as separate HP bars, jumping between the two as needed, replenishing Sevagoth's shields, and creating setup opportunities for Sevagoth by utilizing CC from Breach Surge and CC from Embrace. Shadow is also a potent force against the likes of Acolytes, and Shadow can interact with most objects, including life support canisters. Sevagoth's Shadow Claws can be modded to your specificity. In terms of weapon loadout, use whatever you are most comfortable with or have built for the Steel Path. In this case, I'm using Nami Skyla Prime with my Riven because it has the highest range out of all my weapons, the Epitaph for its additional cold proccing control and its passive with Sevagoth for increased headshot damage, and the Scourge to better land those headshots. Alternative Helminth choices include Pillage, Reave, Shooting Gallery, Terrify, and Warcry, all of which I've tested and enjoyed to a certain extent. If you would like to see more specific videos on these, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And that's it, Pixies. Thanks again for watching, and of course, if you liked it, be sure to drop a like, follow, and catch me on Twitch when you can. Without further ado, I'll see you next time in the Queendom. Bye!